right, let's open up with a prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face the east toward Jerusalem, where our temple was, and where our temple in Yahshua shall return. Abba Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim of Yasharal, we thank you, Yah, once again for providing us another Shabbat. Yahweh, for keeping us safe throughout the week and bringing us into your day of rest, Yahweh. We freely come before you, Yahweh, and we hallow this day according to your commandments. For we understand that 6 days you work, and that seventh day you blessed and you sanctified and you hallowed. So we follow those instructions, Yah. We humbly also come before you and ask that you allow your angel that sits at the door and knock to come in and sup with us and us with him, so your name could be here on these grounds, giving us that holy convocation that you commanded us, Yahweh. And Yahweh, we ask for all your children across the four corners of the earth, Yahweh, that are struggling, that are going through affliction, that are feeling the effects of this world, Yahweh, weighing down on them, that you empower them, Yahweh. All your children, that you give them the strength to endure. We ask that you always provide a servant or a helper or a spirit to always be there for your children as they go through and navigate through this Babylon-filled world, Yahweh, of confusion. Yah, all these things we humbly come before you, and we come and we praise and we ask humbly. We make full supplication. We make no demands. All these things we come before you and ask through Yahshua HaMashiach. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
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 So far. All right, Shabbat Shalom. My name is Yadon Yasharah, my brother Yonatan Yasharah.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And the title of today's Shabbat study is The Tree of Life. The Tree of Life. And, all of us are familiar with the Tree of Life in the beginning in the garden when we started. And if you read towards the end of the book, we see that it ends in the same manner, where in the beginning we had the Tree of Life. And in the end, we also have in New Jerusalem, we have the Tree of Life with the 12 manner of fruits. That's for the healing of the nation. So when you see that concept of this tree, you also see Yahweh refer to Yahshua as the branch. We also see him say a root and stem of Yesi. We see a lot of tree and branches and olive branches and things of that nature. A lot of husbandry and a lot of tree analogies. And we want to understand, what does he mean by these metaphors? How does this relate to us? And how do we get back to this tree of life? So we're going to examine that today. We're going to first start in the beginning. Let's open up in Bereshit, Genesis chapter 2. And we're going to take a look at that concept. And, you know, it's also, you have a family tree. We use that. A branch, you know, is also used as kimbane, which is also son or family of, is also referred to as a branch. So there's a reason why he uses those type of metaphors in describing his people, and especially describing his Mashiach. So Bereshit, Genesis chapter 2, and we're going to start this at verse 1. And Shabbat Shalom, sis Kim Marie, good to see you. Shabbat Shalom, Ariel Smith, good to see you as well, sis. And Shabbat Shalom, Dan Goldman, good to see you checking in again.
Hallelujah. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day Elohim ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Elohim created and made.
All right, so from the first day of creation, every time we hit this point, we're always going to talk about this. On the seventh day, Elohim blessed it. He blessed it and sanctified the seventh day. So he made it holy and he separated it from every other day. That's why it's the only day given a name, the Sabbath day, Shabbat. And every other day is in relation to how far away from the Shabbat is it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days away as the sixth day of the week. And then he rested from all his work. So not only did he bless it, sanctify, but he also rested. So people say, well, we bless and we sanctify every day of the week. You can't do that, because then you're treating every day of the week the same as every other day. So then that's not blessed or sanctified. That's like saying, you know, I love everybody. But what about your children? What about your family? You are commanded to take care of your family first. He who feeds another before your own is worse than an infidel. So it's the same thing with you feeding this glory and honor and respect to any other day other than the day that he sanctified. Go ahead.
Verse 4, these are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, in the day that Yahweh Elohim made the earth and the heavens. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, for Yahweh Elohim had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And Yahweh Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And Yahweh Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed.
So Yahweh Elohim formed the man of the dust of the ground. So that's how our flesh was made, carbon. We are carbon creatures. And breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. This is what made us a living soul, is him breathing his spirit, his breath into us. So when now you tie the beginning of this way, you tie it back to the end where it talks about Ecclesiastes chapter 18. Where does the spirit go? It goes back unto the Father in which it came from. It goes back unto Elohim. So that same breath that comes into us was breathed out of Yahweh's mouth, gave us life. And when we die, that's where the breath goes back. It goes back. The spirit goes back unto the Father, and the body stays in the ground where it was. Go ahead.
Verse 8, and Yahweh Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahweh Elohim to grow every plant that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
All right, so in the midst is in the middle of the garden, is the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life. Go look at that word garden again. Let's take a look at that Hebrew word for garden.
That's gone, ain't it?
Gone, right. Or Ghana.
H1588.
It's gone. And when it talks about a garden, H1588, it's gone, which is garden as fenced. And if you look at the root word of that, which is 1598, it's ganan, which is to hedge about, that is protect. So the garden was the fenced, protected part of Eden. So the whole of Eden wasn't this protected place. Eden was just the region, the area. But the Garden of Eden was the place where Yahweh protected, where he fenced and he hedged. And that's where he had, in the middle of that hedged protected place, is where he had the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree of life is this word, is righteousness, is that gives us life, is the spirit of Yah. That's the tree of life. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is all the other knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that is out there, that is in addition to the spirit, the knowledge that gives you life. So this tree is very important. We had an opportunity to eat off of that tree. He never told us we couldn't eat off that tree, but he told us not to eat off the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And we chose to grab all this other knowledge and wisdom rather than grab a hold of the knowledge of life. Go ahead.
Verse 10. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it was parted and became into 4 heads. The name of the first is Pison. That is it which compasses the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good, and there is bdellium and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasses the whole land of Ethiopia. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goes toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth is Euphrates.
All right, so the first one being the Nile, the second one being the Blue Nile, the third one being the Tigris, and the fourth one being the Euphrates. So if it's giving you these rivers where we know where they are now, then where is Eden at?
On the continent of Africa.
Right. It's not in Europe. It's not in North America, South America. It's in the continent of what they call Africa. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. For in the day that you eat thereof, you shall surely die.
So here Yahweh's giving the instruction. You can eat of any tree, any branch of life you can take. Go ahead. That's you. Except this tree of knowledge and good and evil. And really at this point, that was the only thing we knew of rebellion, was that we're not supposed to eat this. All we knew was do this or do that, and Yah, will take care of you. That's all we knew. But when we ate of that tree of knowledge and good and evil, we now learned how to be disobedient. We now learn that you could be disobedient, that there was a way to displease the Father, and that we could do that. We had no knowledge of that, and we did not need a knowledge of that. And the adversary knew that if we had put all our focus into the tree of life, then we would live forever, and then there would be no death in the earth. But because the adversary, the devil, can't create life and wants to be like the Most High so much, he realized, I can create something else. I can create death in the world. Because there would have been no death in the world if we would have been dealing with nothing but instruction of the Most High and the tree of life.
Verse 18. And Yahweh Elohim said, It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make a help meet for him.
All right. And I think Jonathan was the first person that ever brought this to my attention. All the way up until this point, everything was good. Everything was good. Everything was created for a reason. Even the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He didn't say it was bad. He said, just don't eat of it. There's certain fruits in the ground that have their purpose, but we don't eat of it. It's poisonous, but it has its purpose. All the way up until this point where he said it's not meat for man to be alone. So what kind of doctrine is it teaching that men not supposed to be with women? That men are not supposed to reproduce? The first thing he told us, be fruitful and multiply. So what kind of doctrine is it, or what kind of religion is that tells a man that he's supposed to just not be with a woman? Now, he didn't say it's not meat that man shouldn't be with 50 different women. He didn't say that. He just said it's not meat that man should be alone. It's not good
that man should be alone. So Yah said, I will make a help meet for him. So all the way into today's time, Yah is still creating help meets for us. So when we are looking for our wives, we need to be looking for the woman that Yah created for us. Go ahead.
Verse 19. And out of the ground Yahweh Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle and to the fowl of the air and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a help meet for him. And Yahweh Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Yahweh Elohim had taken from man made he a woman and brought her unto the man.
So this is almost like pruning. When you prune a branch and you plant the branch in the ground and you allow it to sprout out and grow, and a tree grows from that. A completely different tree. But that tree is of the same type and manner that the tree that it was a branch from, and it came from there and it grew. So this is why woman is called woman, because she's coming out of man. Go ahead.
Verse 23. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh.
All right. Go ahead.
And they were both naked, and the man and his wife were not ashamed.
All right. So let's look at that word for tree. The Hebrew word for tree is eitz, which is H6086. H6086. And if you do not have a Strong's Concordance, what we're doing is we're reading the lexicons, which are the numbers that are that each Hebrew word in the Old Testament has a Hebrew definition, and that Hebrew definition given in English is what the lexicon gives us. So we're able to go through every original word in the Old Testament and see the Hebrew word was there, read the Hebrew definition in English so that we can make sure that we're not being lost in translation. What this will do, it will take away a lot of that translation stuff that had to do with the Greeks and how they were changing things to kind of lead people to believe certain things based on their understanding. I prefer to use the King James because I can at least reference that and look at the original words that were there, and be able to read those definitions and make sure that we're getting a proper understanding from a Hebrew perspective. So the word for tree that was used, the Hebrew word was eitz, which is H6086, spelled ETS, and that's from H6095, a tree, from its firmness, hence wood, plural sticks, carpenter, gallows, helve, pine, plank, staff, stock, stick, stock, timber, tree, or wood. So it's eitz is the Hebrew word. Let's move on. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 6.
And now, if I may even add, there's a lot of symbolism that's attached with the trees. I think you had mentioned it about how the man saw the trees.
You're going to read that today too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of symbolism. And as we go through the progression of the class, when we get down to that was in Mark chapter 8. It'll start to make a little bit more sense, the metaphors that, and when he's talking about fixing somebody's eyes, did he fix it too good? That's no, that's too much.
Wow.
That's too much. Hold on. That's a little too much. Let me get you back here. You seeing things beyond what you're supposed to see.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that. Oh,
go ahead, Elder.
Yeah, just going back a minute, what you had talked about the breath of life, and I was wondering, in my mind, I remember what verse you talked about, but I know the verse that's in Ecclesiastes 12, I think verse 7, when it said, "Then shall dust return and to the earth, and it as it was, and the spirit shall return unto Elohim who gave it." So
right.
basically, yeah, that's the verse I'm giving. You know, I mean, there's another one that you know, yeah, give it up. Because I can write it on my sheet. You know, so I just wanted to bring that to light. That's what Yahweh said is going to happen when we die. We go back unto Him. You know, and if He doesn't use a two-edged sword on us, you know, to divide our soul from the spirit, you know, the spirit will always return to Him.
Right.
We with the Father, then we with our spirit return to the Father. So I just want to bring that point up. Okay, it's just another something that goes along with what you were saying earlier.
Right. That was the scripture I was looking for. You said it was Ecclesiastes chapter 12.
Yeah, chapter 12, verse 7.
Excellent. Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 7. That was the reference that I was making. Because people ask, you know, well, my father died, my mother died, my friend died, my child died. Where do they go? What happens to them? Well, they're not suffering. We know that for a fact. They're not conscious. When somebody dies, they're asleep. It's just like when you're asleep, you have no consciousness of what's going on in the outside world. You are in sleep world. So when we die, it's that deep sleep where you are not, you know, conscious of anything. Your spirit has went back unto the Father, and it's just like that's why Saul talks about, you know, a twinkling in the eye. That's what it's going to seem like to you. In all of a moment, all of a sudden you died and you wake up and you before a judgment. Thousands of years could have passed by. You have no clue or concept of time. But the spirit goes back unto the Father because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred. So that energy is just transferred back unto the Father until it's put back into you for judgment. So we are in Zechariah, and you have some... Oh,
no. We continue.
Okay. Zechariah chapter 6, and let's start this at verse 1.
And I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came 4 chariots out from between 2 mountains, and the mountains were mountains of brass. In the first chariot were red horses, and the second chariot black horses. And in the third chariot, white horses, and in the fourth chariot, grizzled and bay horses. And I answered and said unto the angel that talked with me, What are these, my sovereign? And the angel answered and said unto me, These are the 4 spirits of the heavens, which go forth from standing before the sovereign of all the earth. The black horses which are therein go forth into the north country, and the white go forth after them, and the grizzled go forth toward the south country. And the bay went forth and sought to go that they might walk to and fro through the earth. And he said, Get you hence, walk to and fro through the earth. And they walked to and fro through the earth. Then he cried upon me and spoke unto me, saying, Behold, these that go toward the north country have quieted my spirit in the north country. And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Take them of the captivity, even Heldai of Tobiah and of Yedidiah, which are come from Babylon, and come you the same day, and go into the house of Josiah the son of Zephaniah. Then take silver and gold, and make crowns, and set them upon the head of Yahshua the son of Jehozadak the high priest. And speak unto him, saying, Thus speaks Yahweh of hosts, saying, Behold the man whose name is the branch, and he shall grow up out of his place, and shall build the temple of Yahweh.
So you're seeing this symbolism of the crowning of Yahshua HaMashiach. And it's being placed on another priest named Joshua, which is Yahshua, which is just the English, I guess, transliteration of Yahshua's name. And this branch, the branch, he shall grow up out of this place and shall build the temple of Yahweh. It's not talking about the physical temple building the building. It's talking about the spiritual temple in which we are the building blocks of that temple. He's going to teach us this word, how to walk in it as human beings and be in perfection with him being the cornerstone. And it's being called the branch. What word for branch was used there? What's the Strong's?
H6780. Probably not, sir.
It's actually Samak. Samak, H6780. And when they use the word branch, it's used so many different Hebrew words were used for branch. Natsar was one. Then they even use Bane, which is like family, son of. So Semach, which is H6780, spelled Tsemach, and that's from H6079, a sprout, literally or figuratively branch bud, grew springing. So this branch, this offshoot, remember, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was Yah, and the Word was with Elohim. So in the beginning, there was a sprouting of something, a sprouting of that spirit that came from the Father, the branch, the spirit Israel that was there in the beginning, which was placed down into Yahshua HaMashiach, the Messiah. Go ahead. Verse 13.
Even he shall build the temple of Yahweh, and he shall bear the glory and sit and rule upon his throne. And he shall be a priest upon his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both. And the crowns shall be to Helem, and to Tobiah, and to Yedidiah, and to Hen, the son of Zephaniah, for a memorial in the temple of Yahweh. And they that are far off shall come and build in the temple of Yahweh. And you shall know that Yahweh of hosts has sent me unto you. And this shall come to pass if you will diligently obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim.
They that are far off shall come and build the temple of Yahweh. We are the temple of Yahweh, and we are all far off. Majority of us are scattered all over the world. This is all by prophecy that this would happen so the word can go everywhere and everybody would have a chance to as salvation. So we are going to build in this temple of Yahweh. And all of this building in the temple is all through this branch which is being represented here as Yahshua HaMashiach, the Messiah, the firstborn spirit, the only begotten. So it's talking about Yahshua building this temple of Yahweh. So now let's go to Matthew chapter 16, and we're going to see this being manifested. Matthew chapter 16, which is probably about another 4 books down. Matthew chapter 16.
And once again, another nature reference concerning Yahweh.
Mm-hmm. And shalom, Ahavakai, love life. Good to see you, sis. And shalom, some other people that I missed. Shabbat shalom, Sister Tanya and Brother Isaiah. Good to see y'all, family. And I did not keep up with the comments fast enough, so I missed a few people. I do apologize.
Matthew chapter 16 and verse 1. The Pharisees also with the Sadducees came and tempting desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven. He answered and said unto them, when it is evening, you say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. O you hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky, but can you not discern the signs of the times?
So when the sky is a certain color, we can look out and we can see, oh, it's going to be great weather. You know, the humidity. We can take a piece of grass and throw it in the air. The wind is blowing this way at 30 degrees. We can do all that. But we do wickedness, then all of a sudden transgression in some poetic justice. Chastening in a poetic justice type of way happens to us. No, that's just a coincidence. Mm-hmm. We can't see that sign. We can't understand that. You know, bad things happen to everybody. Mm-hmm. We can't grasp that concept. But for carnal reasons, and these are for carnal reasons, why else we looking at the weather and trying to know? Because we trying to think about commerce. How's my money going to be? How can I travel on this journey? How can I do this? How's my crops? Am I going to get rain? So we don't mind looking at all these signs that's going to affect our pocketbook. But the things that's going to affect our salvation, that's just a coincidence. We can't see that. And we can see all the signs of all these things that are about to happen now, but we can't see the signs that judgment is coming. All the different prophecies that are being fulfilled, showing us how, matter of fact, Sister Tafara was bringing something to me today. She was like, showing those pictures of how they got, women taking one knee, bowing down and proposing to the husband and stuff like that. And, and it's like, what kind of foolishness is that? But then it brought to mind the prophecy in Isaiah chapter 2, where it talks about in that day, 7 women will grab a hold of one man and say, look, we got our own clothes, we got our own food, we got everything. Just give us your name, give us Yasharal, so that this reproach can be taken away from us. It ain't because man is just so great that everybody wants to deal with us. Nah, this is because so many men are getting killed off. What he's talking about, I will strike the head of the women. He's talking about killing men. Not only the physical head, but also the head of the woman is the man, her husband. Talking about all these men being wiped off to the point where he said, I will make a man more valuable than precious gold, than fine gold. So we're seeing all these prophecies being fulfilled, showing you that we are getting closer and closer to the time. But we can't see all that. But we can see, oh, it's going to be, rain is coming.
Verse
brother.
Verse 4. Go ahead, Elder.
Yes, brother. Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit to that. So basically, when you expounded on that just now, a lot of people, all of us have to understand what kind of man that we have to become, being priests of the Father, that, we know when we have a widow, her head is Yeshua, the same as ours. Our head used to be a husband, and then the head of a husband was Yeshua, and the head of Yeshua is the Father.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an order to things. But when you have a maid, usually the head is supposed to be her daddy, her personal daddy, and then later on, it can be, like I said, like when you go to a synagogue or a place of worship, they say when you want to question, you go to your father, or you go to your priest, because if you don't have a those heads, then you can go, to the priest and talk to him, and get answers that you need, because before, our ladies wasn't allowed to even enter the synagogue, so men were supposed to take up their job to learn all they're supposed to learn, to become priests of the Father, to lead the family and also lead the people, but it becomes a little, watered down, that men wasn't doing their jobs, so when we look at that situation now, Yahweh is calling us, he's been calling us, but our ears are more being open to come back to him so we can take our place to do the job, so when we do that, then we are, fulfilling Yahweh's word when he wants to become a royal priesthood. And our ladies learn this word so they can give to their children and also be that helpmeet to help their husbands when their husbands' heads are so hard that they're not listening to the Father, that the Father would go to the wives, and then the wives would get that word to the husband so he can get back on his job to do what he got to do so he can support his family and do the will of the Most High. Because the blessings come through the man, and if the man doesn't do his job, he stumps the family on the blessings, and the family becomes injured because of it. So it has so much, weight, that we can't all get into right now. But let's just say that, we just touched on just the high ends right now of what we're supposed to start doing, and who the man will be. And when Yahweh said a man will be worth more than gold and precious stones and so forth, because he's going to be doing the will of the Father, the light shall shine through him, and the world shall want to follow him because they know he is with the Father. So the women, like you said, they already have their monetary needs. What they want is a name, and their name is going to be on that man. That doing the will of the Father. So to be also to be a covering. So expressing that we're not going to get that further. That's a whole other class, but. I just wanted to bring that point up because sometimes we, who's listening, might not understand everything that is expressed.
Right, and that's a good explanation of that prophecy, of definitely understanding that when that woman was a child, she had a name, she had a covering, she had her father, but when she grows up out of that household and she goes into the world, she has to get another covering, and that's through her husband. And if, she doesn't have that covering, she's still covered under the Mashiach, but she doesn't have an earthly covering. She has to kind of seek to become part of a community to receive an earthly covering. But when she's doing that, she's trying to receive that branch back. She wants to be part of that branch, which is Yasharal. She wants to be Bat Yasharal, daughter of Yasharal. She wants to receive that covering from that man, that priest. And what brother Brandon Pierce just commented, it's already happening. You seeing homosexuality, you seeing jail, you seeing brothers being raised improperly, running after 15 wives but can't take care of one wives. And then you got these situations out here, and then women are just left out here with slim pickings trying to figure out, who they can deal with. So that's now. Wait till the siege comes. Wait till the great tribulation comes and the wicked are being wiped off the earth. Now there's only left the righteous men. And the righteous men are trying to take care of their families and their situations and everything like that. And now you have women that have, are living a virtuous lifestyle, but there's a shortage of men. And now, to the point where they're so humble, they say, look, we don't care. At one point I was a certain way, but now look, I need to be covered. I need a priest to pray for me. I need somebody to help guide. I need to be a helpmeet to help somebody. I need to be fruitful and multiply. But the pickings are so slim. And these prophecies, it's just, we're getting the metaphors of these prophecies by seeing how desperate of a situation our women are, even to the point where they taking other women. They taking another woman to be a covering. And then the dude just, a sister with a fade, with a boosie fade, trying to act like she a covering. Nah, bro, that's not going to cover you. You might have two incomes, but that's not a covering. Even if this was a man that was living in an abominous lifestyle, that wouldn't be a covering either, regardless if it was a woman or a man. Because you still have the women that do marry a man, and they overlooking the fact that this man dealing with little boys or dealing with men out here. But he's a man, though. I got to cover it. That ain't no covering. Because he's no different than the woman dealing with another woman.
Matthew chapter 16 and verse 4. A wicked and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and there shall no sign be given it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. And he left them and departed. And when his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Yeshua said unto them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, is it because we have taken no bread?
So that just goes to show you the disciples were carnal just like everybody else. It sounds funny to us looking back at it because we done had the benefit of having a whole New Testament. These brothers had no New Testament. They had Torah. That's it. But just look at how this got to be blowing their minds. They like, man, we didn't bring no bread, and all of a sudden, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute. How does man know what we thinking? He know the thoughts of their hearts. And then all of a sudden they trying to figure out amongst themselves. Just imagine that you thinking something that somebody just, your leader just walk up and just give you this spirit. You think Yahweh talking directly to you right now.
Verse 8. Which when Yeshua perceived, he said unto them, O ye of little faith, why reason you among yourselves, because you have brought no bread? Do you not understand, neither remember the 5 loaves and the 5,000, and how many baskets you took up? Neither the 7 loaves of the 4,000, and how many baskets you took up? How is it that you do not understand that I speak it not to you concerning bread, that you should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees? But understood they how they had that he bade them not beware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. When Yeshua came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, some say you are Yohanan the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He said unto them, but whom say you that I am? And Simon Kepha answered and said, you are the Mashiach, the son of the living Elohim. And Yeshua answered and said unto him, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Yona, for flesh and blood had not revealed it unto you, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto you that you are Peter, Kepha, and upon this rock I will build my assembly, and the gates of the grave shall not prevail against it.
All right. So again, we were just reading the prophecy for this in Zechariah chapter 6. He said, this branch shall build the temple of Elohim. He's going to build this assembly. And now Yahshua, the spirit of Israel, is now come into a man, into Yahshua HaMashiach. He is now the firstborn of the first begotten son of Yahweh. And now he is telling you how he's going to build this church. He's making Kepha the rock, the foundation of this new assembly. Go ahead.
Verse 19. And I will give unto you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whosoever shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever you shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven.
So Kepha is now being given the keys. He's now been given made the rock, and he's allowing who is going to be allowed into the kingdom of heaven and who is not going to be allowed. And this is symbolic of what later happened in Shavuot or Shabbat in Pentecost, where the Holy Spirit was given out, and now he's like authorizing these other nations to now receive the truth, but not before it was given to his people. There's an order of things, but it was to benefit the whole world. But first you got to prepare the workers. You want to open up a great business and you want to invite the whole public. You don't just invite the whole public and show up and everybody just show up. Who's going to serve them? Who's going to do the work? Who's going to watch the door? Who's going to keep it clean? Who's going to take the money? So it's the same thing with this word. Salvation was created. And when Yahshua was created, the life and light with man was created in the beginning. Now the servants had to be created and hired to do the work so that the rest of all the customers could come and take part. So he loosened on earth the Gentiles, the Goyim, to now say, listen, if you pick up the spirit of Yahweh, you now have the same entryway and access to the kingdom of heaven. Now, does that mean you're going to be in the back room with management? No, you can come in and you can eat. But you don't own this business. You didn't start this. This business isn't your name. There's 12 gates, and those 12 gates have 12 tribes on them. None of them say tribe of Goyim or a tribe of Ashkenaz or whatever. None of that. That's for the employees, the servants of the Most High. We come in there. We enter the temple. When you get in Revelation, it talks about an outside area that's measured for the nations. Go ahead.
Hear me, brother.
Go ahead, Elder.
Yeah, and this is one of the verses that a lot of these churches be bastardizing when they want to promote this blessing plan theory that they have so they can fulfill loading their pockets with mammon, with money. So this is how they fleece the flock, and so, this is a good time to as I express this right now, that people need to be wary, of people who speak on this lesson plan, because they're not trying to teach you anything except they say, okay, you can be rich. So what's that supposed to mean? You cannot worship, Yahweh and Mammon at the same time. You're gonna believe in one or believe in the other one.
Right.
You can't do that, because now you got two gods. So it don't work that way. So this is talking about the kingdom of heaven. And this is also a very powerful spiritual thing. So this is how a man's supposed to get his heart together before the Most High. If you want to release a what in your life? Something from the enemy, or you want to release something from Yah? And the deal is that it gets twisted, in the wrong mouth. So I just wanted to bring that point up, that this is one of the ones that they use wrongly in these churches out here, so they get money in their pockets.
Right. And this is the Catholic Church. That's their bread and butter right there. They say, oh, well, somehow because they built so-called church on top the bones of Kepha, was what they claim, which would, if they did that, that would make it would be so fitting, because it would make the whole building unclean. It would make an abomination. So they say that they built this whole church because they say he's the foundation. That's how carnal these Greeks and these Italians are. They built so-called holy church on top the bones of a dead man. They don't care what dead man it is. I don't care if it was Yeshua's bones. That would just be so unclean, right? They built that. Then they try to say, well, you have to now go to some white man behind some door and confess your sins, and he tell you 2 Hail Marys and Our Father, and you good. And put some money in the plate and you walk off. And they use this one scripture. Even my own mother tried to give me this one red writing from the Mashiach and say, this is why you going to another man and confessing your sin to another man. Yeah, you're supposed to confess your sins to everybody so your brother can pray for you. But doesn't mean you go to the same people that physically killed the Mashiach and say that these people, because of them building a body on an Israelite, somehow they automatically turn into the bloodline of Kepha, which makes absolutely no sense. So I'm glad you brought that up, Elder.
Matthew chapter 16 and verse 20. Then charged he his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Yeshua HaMashiach. From that time forth began Yeshua to show unto his disciples how that he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised again the 3rd day. And Kepha took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from you, master, this shall not be unto you. But he turned and said unto Kepha, Get you behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me, for you savor not the things that be of Elohim, but those that be of men.
So that seems kind of harsh. You know, he's calling, he just 1 minute, Kepha, you are the rock. You are the man. You are going to be the man. And then, you know, yeah, but I got to die, though, 3 days. No, you ain't going to die. Get away from me, Satan. You just like, whoa. But he's just letting you know that this is a spirit, that this spirit can get into anybody, that's presumptuous with things, trying to presume like you know what's going to happen in the future. And first of all, how are you going to argue with anything that the word is saying? There's an example. I don't care if you are the rock, the foundation. How are you going to argue against anything in this word? Even if it sounds like it's going to be bad. If it's translated properly and it is a valid source, you can't argue with it. Just because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's bad because it seems bad to you. That's the adversary, the devil, making you think you greater than what you are. That's not what your job is. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do. And that's also an example of showing you that you could sin in ignorance, thinking you doing something right, thinking you doing something good, and you being used of the adversary, the devil. It's the same situation where you have, oh, didn't I do all these great things in your name? Nah, you didn't. You were being used by the adversary, the devil. But Yahweh just allowed that to benefit his people. So we got to be circumspect with things and not lean too much on how we feel about things and lean more to the instruction, because it was Eve that made that decision based on how she felt. She had the knowledge from her husband, don't eat of that, you're going to die. But she felt like it was a beautiful and it was desirous and it was pleasurable. And I feel like I can be so much better of a servant with more knowledge. All you need to do is help your husband tend to this garden and we'll live forever. Go ahead. Go ahead. You have a comment?
In the same token, Cephas had to be corrected, you know, and Hazatan had to be kicked in the face. Right. You know, or rebuked by Yeshua, you know, because it also teaches Cephas that he was used, as you say, and he has to really, this how he teaches us, watch what comes out of our mouth. That everything we think about is correct, or should come out of our mouth. That's what we're supposed to discern with Spirit is speaking to us, or dealing with us. And a lot of us, all of us need a whole lot of, like you say, practice with this, you know, trying to figure out what we're really thinking about, what our actions is going to be, because they're not pleasing unto the Father. So this is the same thing that we saw a long time ago in Scripture dealing with Samuel when, you know, the children of Israel wanted a king over them, and Yah told them what they were going to receive if they wanted a man over them. that he said, I could be your Elohim and your king, but the people didn't seem to understand that. If they did, they wanted their will, not the Father's will. They were also pretty ignorant on that subject. So he told them 3 times, and they still didn't get it, or still didn't want to do Yahweh's will. They wanted to do their will, like the other nations, won't be like the other nations. They don't realize that they were chosen to be the children of the Most High, and they really didn't take that to heart or what that really meant. So this is what you could say, we keep making the same mistake left and right. And when you look at Cephas being in the presence, can touch, can speak, can hold, and learn from the Mashiach, the word, as you say, all truth, we still show that we unlearned and we're very serious children, and we don't have control over our mouth and our actions, which leads us into the error. So, Yeshua showed us right there that we shouldn't be in that manner, because Satan is always looking for a vessel to use. He's a roaring lion, always looking to destroy, kill, devour.
Right.
So I just want to bring that point up.
Right. That's a very good point. And also that lets you know how could adversary, the devil, get that close with Mashiach right there. Mm-hmm. So Yahshua not going to run him off all the time. Sometimes he's going to allow you to try to make that decision because you have free will. But then when you do show up and you start to manifest into actions, that's when the word going to jump on it, and he going to deal with that. Mm-hmm. So we have to be honest with ourselves and say, just because we spend all this time with the word, that's like having Yahshua with you all the time. And just a quick breakdown of the Mashiach, the word is a spirit. The spirit of Israel is that what it is, a spirit. It could be manifested in different things. So we could understand that spirit is manifested into words that are put into a book. Before words, it was manifested into pictures that we could see that meant things. And when he came down in the flesh, it just manifested as a man so that we could understand how to walk with this word. So this word, when we have it and in it all the time, it's either manifested as thoughts in our brains or in a book that we read and in our actions. And we keep it close to us all the time. And just because that's what you do, we need to remember this lesson right here. This is the rock of the assembly. This is the foundation, the rock. And yet he's right next to the Mashiach. And here's the adversary, the devil, so easy to come in and just use a good emotion, an emotion of, I wish well for you. I would give my life for you. I don't want nothing to happen to you. And that was enough for the adversary, the devil, to come in there and destroy doctrine and prophecy. So that's a lesson. Don't think of yourself any better than what you are, and make sure you keep good counsel around, because that means you could be in error easily off of a good emotion. Go ahead, brother.
Can I make a comment?
Sure. Go ahead, sis.
I was just going to piggyback off of what you guys just said. The same thing occurred in Luke in 22.
Mm-hmm.
When the enemy desired to sift Peter as wheat.
Right.
The Mashiach had to pray for him because he knew he was going to do it.
Right.
And he knew Peter was going to deny him before men. And if you deny the Mashiach before men, he's going to deny you before the Father. And he was trying to save Peter from that egregious error.
Right.
So it's the same thing, because Peter said, no, I will, walk with you and die for you. But he knew he wasn't all the way there yet, if that makes sense.
Yes, and that was a great precept.
And still, and he let him know, listen, the enemy coming for you now, and I'm going to pray for you. So when you convert it, and when you stand firm in this foundation, this rock, and you can convert your brothers and make them strong too.
Right. That's a very good precept. As a matter of fact, Elder, why don't you expound on that and show how the Mashiach covered that?
Okay. All right. See, if you look at it, Yeshua already knew what he was going to do. But when he stated that, what he wanted to do, that what he felt he wanted to do in his heart. But Yeshua had said to him, look at what he did. He said, said, do you love me? He asked him like 3 times, do you love me? And he said, yeah, I do. I do. So earlier, he already covered him 3 times. Because he said that by the time cock goes 3 times, you're going to deny me 3 times. And all that, you know, you got to think about it. All that you say you was going to do, no, you won't do. Because Yahshua knew your heart. He knew what you were going to do. It wasn't your time. It's Yahshua's time. And you can't get into that. So he had to learn a deep lesson like that. Yahshua covered him 3 times before he made that mistake. Because that's how much Yahshua loves us. That he also lays down, he's the covering of us, and he's going to lay himself down to let you understand the importance of what he's doing and what you're going to do. That also goes along with, we talked about earlier, dealing with watch what we say. That we wind up becoming an error because we let certain things come out of our mouth because we either don't think about them or we don't think about them enough. So we have to learn how to, as we just said in the scripture, deny ourselves. If we deny some foolishness coming out of our mouths, a blessing may come upon us because we're stopping, controlling the demonic spirit that's trying to take over us and destroy the spirit in us or take the spirit in us. So this is another lesson that shows how much Yahshua loves us because he also made a preparation for us when we do make an error. So it's a teaching platform for us to learn. We, don't matter how much we think we're close to the Most High, you in the flesh.
Right,
and
right.
Saul was saying, you know, it's not to the swift, this walk is not to the swift. We have to endure every day. That means we have to take everything we think about and what we do into captivity before they try to exalt themselves before the Most High. That makes us an error and puts the steps behind instead of walking forward. So, sister, that's very good that you made that reference, you know. So this is showing that, you know, you're being enlightened, that you're becoming a learned vessel, you know, to change your walk, you know, get close to the Most High. So, you know, praise God that you brought that up.
Right. Praise God.
Like that.
Yeah, he said, if you love me, he said, Kepha, do you love me? Yes, Adonai, I love you. He asked him again, Kepha, do you love me? And he could have just been, you know, Kepha could have just been frustrated. Adonai, why are you asking me that? You know, but nah, he answered again, yes, I love you, Adonai. And Yahshua asked him the 3rd time because just like the elder said, he knew what Kepha was going to do because some tests you're not prepared to pass yet. And he knew that. Kepha, do you love me? He said, Adonai, you know I love you. Feed my sheep. And he's letting you know that love covers the multitude of sins. That's why he kept asking him, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love this word? Do you love this word? Do you love this word? Yes, Adonai, you know I love you. Then feed my sheep. Then take that love you have of this word and spread it. Give it out and feed the sheep that are dying, that need that bread from above. So the adversary is only going after those people that are worthy. Everybody else, he's not worried about them because you're already his people. You're already going to get taken care of. Matter of fact, when Yahshua come back with the 144 is coming back to kill his own people. His own people that are doing wickedness. So he ain't worried about that. The adversary, the devil, is coming back when he's loosed for that little season. He's coming to get the remnant of those that keep the commandments. Because if I can knock these people off that are keeping the commandments, I can get some more people that I wasn't going to get. Because everybody else, they already got. Because Yahshua and his 144, they coming to do the great harvest, the wine press. So all those people he already got. So this is why the adversary, the devil, is going after us in our lives. Because we are the remnant that are trying to keep these commandments. The rest of the world don't care. They at Mall of the Americas right now, purchasing, getting, saving 10 cents on a t-shirt or something. They don't care. They doing their thing. We set this day apart and say, no, I am deliberately not doing anything else other than doing what the Mashiach told us to do. Keep the commandments, come together, gather on the Shabbat. And if you're too far away from an assembly that worships 2 or 3 gather in his name, then you Praise Yah, we're in a place where now we can go online. We can get on a phone call. We can call a brother or sister and read the scriptures together. It's a spirit. The spirit ain't like, it's like your cell phone service. It can only go this far. The spirit go to heaven. You think it can't go to another part of the country or the world? So praise Yah. So we are at verse 24. Matthew chapter 16 and verse 24.
Then said Yeshua unto his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his stake and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it.
So is he asking us all to go ahead and get a big stake and hang ourselves on a tree? Because he was hung on a tree. If you read it several places, there was no Hebrew word for cross. Straos is a Greek word. That had nothing to do with us. He was hung from a tree. He's not asking us all to hang from a tree. He said, pick up your burden and follow me. In other words, keep these commandments and watch how the world treats you. They're going to treat you the same way they treated me. And this is what's going on in our life right now. That's why who's hating you the most? Not the nations. Your own people hating you the most. Because that's how the nature of our people are. If you are keeping the spirit of the adversary, the devil, you're going to try to sin in the most egregious way, which is to hate your own. Go ahead.
Verse 26, for what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul?
So what's the purpose if you used up everything and you gained up all this mass, but then you died? So you died because when you're losing your soul, you're losing your breathing life, your body. So you died. Now it's over. Now you can't repent. You can't change. You can't confess Yahshua. You can't try to, use the money to help people. It's too late. You're dead. So what is the point? The whole point is for you to gain up that treasure in heaven now, for you to practice perfection now, so that when you do die, that's your witness for you. Now Yahshua, the word, can speak up for you. Now he's with me. He's been keeping commandments. Yeah, I heard you, adversary. He did all the wicked things, but that stopped at this point. And from that point on, he struggled as hard as he could to do the right thing. And I got him. I'm cleaning him up. It can speak for you. So we have things in reverse. We think that we're going to amass all these things on earth and then try to gain our salvation once we got money. That never works. Every man that died thought he would have had more time.
Verse 27. For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. Verily I say unto you, there shall be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on. Let's go to Yeshayah chapter 11, or Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 11.
Isaiah, Yeshayah, chapter 11 and verse 1. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots.
All right, so let's look at that. So there shall be a rod. What was that word for rod?
H24:15.
H24:15. So there's a rod, a koter, or hoter, spelled which is H24:15, spelled CHOTER, koter, and that's an unused root of a certain signification, a twig. So there shall be a twig that's going to come out of the stem of Jesse. So let's see what the stem is. What's the number for stem?
This is 34. Oh, this is 1503. Excuse me.
H1503.
Correct.
All right, and that's Giza, and that's H1503, Giza, spelled Geza, and that is to cut down trees, the trunk or stump of a tree, as felled or as planted, stem, stock. So there's going to be a twig that's going to grow out of this trunk, right? And a branch shall grow out of his roots. So I think this is where it says netzer. What's the Hebrew word for that? For branch?
H5342.
And this is netzer. H5342, netzer, spelled netzer, spelled Netser. And that's from H5341 in the sense of greenness as a striking color, a shoot, figuratively a descendant or branch. See, now you're seeing why they use branch as bane in certain situations, because it's saying there shall come forth a twig out of the stem or stump of Jesse, and we know Jesse was King David's father. And a branch, which is a green shoot, shall grow out of his roots. So there's a lot of stuff. What's roots now? H what?
H8328.
And that's sheresh. Sheresh. Spelled Sheresh. A root. Bottom, deep, heel, root. So something is growing out of the root. That's before it can grow up out the stump and grow out. It's already growing out the root. It got to grow out there first before it can grow out the top. So it's giving you a lot of things that are going to be later explained when it's talking about the he that was that was after me is before me. With Yohanan the Baptist trying to say, listen, you know, this person was before me, but was born after me. So it's letting you know these aren't earthly things that we're talking about. This is spiritual. It's talking about spirits here. All right, so start that over again in verse 1. You had a comment, sis?
Yes. What you was just giving the definition is the bottom, deep, or sheresh, the root?
Yeah, sheresh is the roots.
Yeah, it says bottom, deep, heel, root, like the like the heel. Didn't Jacob grab Esau's heel?
Right. Yep.
And didn't the word says that the Messiah will crush the head of the serpent, and he will bruise his heel?
Mm-hmm. That's deep.
That's okay.
That's a deep connection right there.
Because I just was looking because I know that David, all of Israel comes from the line of Jacob.
Right.
And we know that the Messiah came through the line of Adam. And I don't know, that just made me think about that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And a root. Yeah, root can mean, you know, figuratively, root as in ancestry, where you come from, where you started.
Right. And what I'm taking from what you just brought to us, which is interesting, I never looked at it from that perspective, with him and I was just thinking about that when we read that the other day, what the significance of that was. And now you have brought that precept in these Hebrew words, because by him grabbing the heel, you are the firstborn. The firstborn is supposed to grab the inheritance, is supposed to get the birthright, but he's grabbing on the root, saying, no, that's going to be me. That's very interesting. That makes that's very metaphoric. I never looked at it that way. Praise Yah.
Praise Yah.
Verse 2. And the Spirit of Yahweh shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of Yahweh.
And these are the 7 spirits of Yahweh that the Mashiach had. And this is why he said, you would want me to go to my Father. Because when I go to him, now I can give you the Holy Spirit. I can give you all these different things. Because you can do more with me there. Because when it's manifested in a body, because he held the entire spirit of Yahshua in his body. That's what made him the only begotten of the Father. There's plenty of us, including us. We are the son in flesh. We are the firstborn and the spirit, the word in flesh, because the word is in us. But no man has the power to retain the spirit at all times. But Yahshua did. And these were the 7 spirits of Yahweh. The spirit of Yahweh, 1. The spirit of wisdom, 2. The spirit of understanding, 3. The spirit of counsel, 4. The spirit of might, 5. The spirit of knowledge, 6. And the fear of Yahweh, 7. And the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. So these are the 7 spirits that are going to grab a hold of Jacob. Because this heel, Jacob grabbed that heel. Because the prophecy was already given that the elder shall serve the younger. Go ahead.
Verse
3.
3. And shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of Yahweh. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears.
So he's not going to judge the way a man judges, because that's all we can judge. What we see and what we hear. That's how we seek diligently. Did I see the matter? What did I hear about the matter? What did that person say? What do I see the scripture says? So that's how we judge. But Yahshua knows the man's hearts. That's why he's the only person on this earth that's able to judge. Because he knows what's in your heart. That's why he was able to say, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. Because they're like, man, you know, you brought the bread. You brought the bread. No, I ain't bring no bread. Damn. Hey, you the bread man. You supposed to bring the bread. Well, you the leader. You supposed to bring the bread. He knew what was in their hearts. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. They are hypocrites. All they want to do is make themselves look good. Stop all that. Why are you worried about this and you, this, who's greater than who and all this? At the end of the day, we all servants. Go ahead.
Verse 4. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. And the righteous shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his tent, of his reins. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And the cow and the bear shall feed their young ones, and their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. And the sucking child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of Yahweh, as the waters cover the sea.
All right. And the fear of Yah is the beginning of knowledge. So once these 7 spirits are given out to all of us, and we are able, and we have kept our vessels in a manner that we can contain that spirit, then we will eventually get to this point. What this is talking about, New Jerusalem. This is talking about another place where there are no more killing. There's no more bloodshed. There's no need for animal sacrifice. There's no need for bloodshed. So there, you can grab a hold of a snake's thing. He ain't finna do nothing. Because everybody's that normal spirit that was there in the beginning when we used to be able to talk to animals before their mouth was shut up.
Verse 10. And in that day there shall be a root of Yesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people, and to it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious.
They're going to seek this ensign of these people. They're going to seek Yasharal because they understand it's already been established. These are the holy people of Yasharal. And if we want to get close unto the creator of all things, then we need to learn how to come close unto him. And these are the people that are close to him. So they're going to show us, because everybody else getting wiped out in the earth that is not coming closer to the Most High, because we can't take care of ourselves on our own no more. It's a different playing field. There are no more oceans and all this stuff. There's no seas. All that is gone. All it is New Jerusalem and flat plains, with Jerusalem being the highest point, so the whole world going to see it. Go ahead. Go ahead, Elder.
Yeah, I just wanted to add this one verse that, when you talking about verse 7, when it says, to it shall the Gentiles speak, and his rest shall be glorious. That speak, I'm looking at it, is the word. And basically, if you go to New Testament, it also makes reference to there, when you deal with Saul, he was talking about in Acts 23:26, the men and brethren, children of the stock of Abraham, and ever, that's the word right there,
right,
ever among you, spirit, which is reverence Elohim.
Right.
To you is the word of this salvation sent. So even from the old to the new, it's still stating that, yes, he is going to conduct the order in which he started this. And along with his children of Israel, Yasharal, if you fear the Most High, you reverence the Most High, then this word is sent to you, this salvation is sent to you, you know. So I wanted to bring that up because, you know, a lot of people, you know, out there are only thinking about, you know, Yasharal, that Yasharal going to be saved and the Gentiles won't be saved. You know, this is not for them, and that's totally untrue. You know, he opened the doors to them. He said, I started with you first. So that's why I'm bringing my word to you first, and I'm going to bring my butt whipping to you first also, because you also, you know, I'm using to prove this word, you know. So we have to look at it, you know, where you need to kind of, anytime people say some things like that, it's only to the children of Yasharal. No, it's the start, the beginning of it is to the children of Yasharal. That's when we started his government with, you know. And the rest is going to be given into the Gentiles, you know. They're going to bring them in, you know, but we first have to deal with us first, you know. So this right here is just telling you how beautiful, you know, in the kingdom, in its future prophecy. You know, nothing is going to hurt us. You're going to have nothing but love.
That's right.
That's right.
And we had a question. Somebody wanted us to, Sister Ariel Smith. She wanted us to go ahead and break down those 7 spirits of Yahweh. So if you go back to chapter 11 in Isaiah in verse 2, these are the 7 spirits of Yahweh. And the 7 spirits of Yahweh, with being the spirit of Yahweh is 1. The spirit of wisdom is 2. The spirit of understanding is 3rd. The spirit of counsel is 4. The spirit of might is 5. The spirit of knowledge is 6. And the fear of Yahweh being the 7th spirit. So these 7 spirits starting first with the spirit of Yahweh and ending with the fear or reverence, the Yahweh of Yahweh. So you got to first have the spirit of Yahweh on you, and the last spirit in that order that they gave is the fear of Yahweh. Because if you have the spirit of Yahweh on you, then you're going to reverence him, because you're going to understand his greatness because of what he's done with you. Because you know, this ain't me that's doing this. All right, so we're at verse 11.
And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall set his hand again the 2nd time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Mitzrayim, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea.
Shall be left. We getting wiped out wholesale. This is what's left. So this goes back to that, I will make a man more precious than fine gold. And Shabbat Shalom, Brother Lucas. Cool. Good to see you, family.
Verse 12. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Yasharal, and gather together the dispersed of Yehuda from the 4 corners of the earth.
The outcasts of Yasharal. So these are the people that have been casted out. Nobody want to deal with them because they're not going with the flow. They're not doing everything everybody else doing. They're not doing that pomp and circumstance. They're not acting like they in the kingdom already. They're acting like they're trying to get in the kingdom by saying, look, I'm not going to look at myself any better than what I am. I'm going to continue working on those things while I have this chance. And he's going to gather all those outcasts, the people that are mourning for the state of our people. They're saying, man, I can't be happy with us like this because I know where we're supposed to be. And furthermore, with much wisdom comes much grief, because you understand the possible outcome for all these people that don't want to walk in this righteousness. Go ahead.
Verse 13. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Yehuda shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Yehuda, and Yehuda shall not vex Ephraim.
And this is possibly why you just can't get along with some of your brothers. Some of your brothers might be from some other tribes that envy you. They're just mad at you because you know the law. You walking in righteousness. You also got that warrior spirit. And then, you know, some of the other tribes may not have the same type of role that you have, because we understand that Yehuda got to go take this thing first. It ain't talking about Ephraim going to take the kingdom first. And that's why, you know, you have a certain group of people in there claiming that, you know, they in the land and they of the stock of Ephraim. Well, that's well and nice. But Ephraim ain't finna take that kingdom. Judah finna take that kingdom according to Torah, according to prophecy. So that means it could be the tribe of Judah, or it could be talking about the kingdom of Judah, which is Benjamin, Levi, and Yehuda. Go ahead.
Verse 14, but they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west. They shall spoil them of the east. Together they shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. All I'm seeing there, Aki, is a return to the land, and everyone around is like, yo, fall into place. These folks ain't playing no games.
But man, Yahweh not playing no games, because
Hallelujah.
we ain't scared of these people. They've been here for thousands of years in weak numbers. But now they're coming from abroad, and they're not like the people that are in this land. This is a different spirit on these people, because these people coming to take the kingdom. And when they get with their brothers that's already here, that may be of the other tribes that have already set things up and know the lay of the land, it's a done deal. Because when we come and to take that kingdom, we're not asking questions. That's in Daniel. We're not talking about, hey, you know, let's make a deal with the land. Look, we taking that mug. We the ones responsible for ripping the idols out the land, getting rid of that mosque and that big rock that people's kissing in these walls and we tearing all these idols down. So when we get there, we're going to need some directions. Oh, that's not the real Jerusalem? Thank goodness. Let me read. You right. That is not the real Jerusalem. So where is it? Over here? Great. We going over there. And anybody that's in his way is getting flattened. Not because we so great. It's because the angels are before us.
Hallelujah. Verse 15, and Yahweh shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Mitzrite, the Egyptian, sea, and with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the 7 streams, and make men go over dry shod. And there shall be an highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Yasharal in the day that he came up out of the land of Mitzrayim.
It just goes right there with that prophecy. We're going to walk over this dry shod land and enter right back into our kingdom. You see this happening right now with the Euphrates River being dried off. I believe Turkey is cutting off the water supply, and it's just being dried out for the saints to come in right on this Euphrates, which is right what we just read in Genesis chapter 2 with the Garden of Eden, with the river of Euphrates, all in that area for the saints to enter right back into the kingdom. All right, let's move on. Now we're going to go to Marcus chapter 8. And that's that situation we're talking about, the man seeing trees. Marcus chapter 8. And we're going to read verses 22 through 34. Mark chapter 8. And we're going to start this at verse 22.
Marcus chapter 8 and verse 22. And he comes to Bethsaida, and they bring a blind man unto him, and besought him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, and led him out of the town. And when he had spit on his eyes, and put his hands upon him, he asked him if he saw aught. And he looked up and said, I see men as trees walking.
All right, so this is a blind man. And, and he can't see. The Mashiach is like, or spitting in his eyes, which is like, he's doing this for shock value. Like, you got a problem with this? All right, then. So he's doing it because that's how the word is. The word can be shocking. You see some stuff, be like, what? But so you're not going to deal with it because you ain't used to this? It's foreign. You don't understand what's going on? So he's doing a lot of stuff for shock value. And this man's eyes is able to see now. He looking up and he see men as trees walking. Whoa. All this, the branch, the tree of life. And we're going to tie that into Revelation 22. The tree of life bearing 12 manner of fruits. Interesting.
Ak, it also is symbolic about, how Yah will look at us. What type of fruit are these trees bringing forth? Is this tree bringing forth good fruit? Is it bringing forth bad fruit? And when we know that we're being categorized like this, we start doing our best to make sure we're not bringing forth rotten fruit in the season where we're supposed to be bringing forth good.
Because what is a tree that doesn't bear fruit? What is it good for?
Being fire, it's cumbering
firewood, some being some vessels of dishonor. Something that's going to be used, but it's going to be burnt up.
Verse 25. And after that he put his hands again upon his eyes and made him look up, and he was restored and saw every man clearly.
So either okay, now I done let you see a little too good.
Yeah.
You seeing trees walking. You seeing what we are categorized as different trees, and the trees that you come from, what branch did you come from? What fruit fell that manifested you that caused you to grow as a tree? Or did an enemy come and plant tares amongst you? So he's seeing things, and then Yeshua, oh, it's too good. Let me rub it back in there. There you go. That's a little too far. You know, you ain't there yet. You ain't there yet.
Looking into the water of life.
Right.
Verse 26. And he sent him away to his house, saying, neither go into town nor tell it to any in the town. And Yeshua went out and his disciples into the towns of Caesarea Philippi. And by the way, he asked his disciples, saying unto them, whom do men say that I am? And they answered, Johannes the Baptist, but some say Elias, and others one of the prophets. And he said unto them, but whom say you that I am? And Peter, Kepha, answered and said unto him, you are the Mashiach. And he charged them that they should tell no man of him. And he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things, and be rejected of the elders and of the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again.
So even when he comes in the flesh, he's letting you know how we are as a people. We're not going to be accepted by everybody. We're not going to be the in crowd. We're not going to go the way that everybody else goes. He's constantly showing sanctification, separation, holiness, consecration from the beginning. And then when he comes in the flesh, he shows you the same thing. I'm not going here picking up everybody. Everybody come walk with me. Now, everybody that want to walk in righteousness, you got the same opportunity, starting with my people first. Because even before he said, go unto all these nations in Matthew 28 and teach them everything that I taught you, baptize them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Before he did all that, he said, listen, do not go to Samaritans. Go to the lost sheep of the house of Yasharal. So he gave an order of things. Go ahead.
Verse 32. And he spoke that saying openly, and Kepha took him and began to rebuke him. But when he had turned about and looked on his disciples, he rebuked Kepha, saying, get you behind me, Satan, for you savor not the things that be of Elohim, but the things that be of men.
All right. We'll stop right there. It's giving another account of the same thing. So let's move on. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 23. Jeremiah chapter 23. So in the eyes of the Messiah, or the eyes of, because we don't know, there might be what the Mashiach sees as the trees, and he looking which one's bearing fruit. And we're gonna read about that. So the eyesight is different unto him.
Jeremiah 23 and verse 1. Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, says Yahweh. Therefore thus says Yahweh, Elohim of Yasharal, against the pastors that feed my flock, that feed my people. You have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doings, says Yahweh. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries where I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase.
All right, so I will gather the remnant of my flock out of where? Where is the remnant of his flock? Where are they at right now to this very day? Where are they at?
Scattered.
Out of all countries. So how are you going to have a 12-tribe chart with 12 countries on there, or 12 regions? We scattered all over the place. Israelites in Alaska, Israelites in Hawaii, Israelites in Guam, Israelites in Brazil. Brazil had 5 million something Israelites that went there first before they came to Northern America. They went to Southern America first. So you just got these doctrines trying to make an overimportance. And when you go look at the history, this was a dream of an elder that dreamt this and just put it out there and said this is what it was. And it's being taught as fact. It can't be. Because how you know it's not fact? Because that thing just kept changing over year after year. They started adding after holes got drilled in it. They started saying, wait a minute, this don't make no sense. No, it's really Panama and such, both that. Really? Come on, man. How are you going to know what tribe people in when it tell you just Judah alone scattered to the four corners of the earth? So how Judah just going to be in America if it says it's scattered to the four corners of the earth? America in four corners? Don't add up.
Verse 4. And I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, says Yahweh. Behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper and execute judgment and justice in the earth.
All right, so I will raise a righteous branch. Which one is it using now?
6780. H6780.
Yes, Samak. Again, I will raise a righteous sprout, and the king shall reign and prosper and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. And what king are they talking about here? Hamashiach. You know, people that don't believe in the Messiah, they're going to inject David and all this stuff. So then David, the root of himself, he this, that. It don't add up.
Verse 6, in his days Yehudah shall be saved, and Yasharal shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called.
So this is a name or a reputation that he shall be called by. That's not his name. We're not walking and say, we're not praying to the Lord our righteousness. That's not who we praying to. We praying to Yahweh, and we pray through Yeshua, because Yeshua is this word. It's metaphoric for we get to Yahweh through his word. So this is another name for him. Go ahead.
Verse 7. Therefore, behold, the days shall come, says Yahweh, that they shall no more say, Yahweh lives, which brought up the children of Yasharal out of the land of Mitzrayim. But Yahweh lives, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Yasharal out of the north country and from all countries where I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land.
So that's how we'll know Yahweh. Right now we know Yahweh by Yahweh that took us out of Egypt and put us in our land, that's going to gather us back home. But this is what we're looking forward to. We're looking forward when this branch is going to come back. This sprout is going to come back that sprouted from the original creation spirit of Yahweh, the omnipotent one. Sprouted from him, and he is going to reign, and he's going to be the Adonai, our righteousness. And how is he our righteousness? What makes us righteous?
Obeying his commandments.
The word makes us righteous. Yahweh makes us righteous by giving us his word, by giving us his son, the spirit, the firstborn spirit, Yasharal. Let's stop right there. Let's move on. Let's go to Yohanan chapter 15. John chapter 15. And it's going to go back to where he sees trees, right? I see trees. For all we know, this is how Yeshua sees. Yeshua probably see nothing but trees. And he looking at trees, he say, okay, that one's bearing fruit. That one's bearing poison berries. Why is that bearing poison berries? It's supposed to be good grape on that vine. What's going on? That might be all he sees. And now he gave this blind man that type of vision to say, look, this is what men really are. They just trees. They've been here for generations and generations and generations, and just keeps regenerating and regenerating. One tree gets cut off, one branch, and it grows back, just like regeneration. And that's all we are. The original man that was here, that died and went down, and it regenerated into another man, into another man, into another man. And it just keeps growing and growing. That tree just keeps getting bigger, just like a family tree. Just keeps growing and growing and growing. Branches. Why they call it family tree. Branches, 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 branches. But that branch is still from that original stump, that original root that began there in the beginning. So that's all we are. So when we're talking about being born again, we must be born again in spirit and in flesh. The flesh is being born again through regeneration, through Generation after generation after generation, our parents, our forefathers, over and over and over, down into our children. That's why I said be fruitful and multiply, so we can keep regenerating. But we still have to be reborn in the spirit. Being reborn in the spirit ain't coming from your ancestor. That's taking the covenant with the Father, Hamashiach, and going through Hamashiach to get through the Father in this word and being immersed and being born again in the spirit. So we are moving on to Yohanan, John chapter 15. And let's go ahead and start this at verse 1.
I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that bears not fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he purges it, that it may bring forth more fruit.
And those are two very contrasting situations here. Every branch that came from this sprout, from this root, from this heel, every branch that bears fruit, he's going to purge it. And that's a painful process. When your works are taken and it's just pulled away, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, I just did all this stuff. What's going on? He's doing that in your life so you can bear more fruit. So we get comfortable. We get comfortable in our situation. I was comfortable in the back of the room with my little notebook, just taking notes. I was comfortable there. Then I was comfortable when I was given a charge to head the media department at the assembly that I was at. And I was comfortable with that. Getting behind the camera, looking at another teacher do all the work. And just, catching little mistakes here and there and doing that. I was comfortable in that because the heat ain't on me. The heat on him when he make a mistake. And then the Most High purges your fruit and say, okay, you did all this, you did that. That's all well and nice, but nah, I have something else for you to do. And it's a painful process because when you're being changed into a new phase, it ain't something nice. It ain't fun. It's just like when you want to build more muscle, you want to get bigger, you got to push harder. You got to exert more energy. You got to break down more muscles to rebuild. But on the flip side, you could be a branch that's not bearing fruit and be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Verse 3.
Go ahead, sister.
I just wanted to comment on the 15 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
A precept of that is when Yahushua was walking along the way with the apostles and he saw the fig tree that wasn't bearing fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And he cursed it and said, I'm paraphrasing, I'm sorry. This tree's not bearing fruit, so it's done away with. It's cursed forever.
Right. We're gonna read that. That's Luke 13. We're gonna actually get into that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So that show you the spirit is right on, because we're going right into that. So you're definitely following along right along. So we're gonna precept exactly what you said and read that.
Yeah.
Praise Yah.
Verse 3. Now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you, as a branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine. No more can you except you abide in me.
So now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. So the word can cleanse us that he spoke. So if he can cleanse us through the word we speak, that means we have the power to cleanse other people through the word we speak. And that's why the elder was talking about earlier, watch what you say. Because the words that come out of your mouth can defile, like in James chapter 2, the tongue what a fire it boasts and how it can burn things. Or it could cleanse you and it could burn off impurities. It is a fire. The tongue is a world of fire. But the question is, why it ain't cleansing you? Because remember, he said all of you in this room are clean, but not everyone. For we knew Yehudas Iscariot. He could not be cleansed with that word. But he walked with the Messiah and was a sinner like everybody else. But he couldn't be cleansed by that word. We don't want to find ourselves in that same branch. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine. No more can you except you abide in me.
All right. So take the carnal hat off and put the spiritual hat on. He's not saying you got to abide in Yahshua HaMashiach, the physical man that was a man just like us. He's saying you're going to have to abide in this word. The word was just made into flesh so that we could understand how it manifests in a man or a woman. So a lot of these people with this Jesus mind frame that Jesus is God and that Greek understanding of things don't understand Yahshua HaMashiach, that he merely was an example of us. We are the word in flesh. The word is in us through this Mashiach. They gave us this word that was there in the wilderness. Go ahead.
Verse 5.
Excuse me, brother.
Go ahead, Elder.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, what you're saying, that we have to, this verse is really telling us to read it, speak it, teach it, live it, believe in it, and walk in it. And when we do those type of things, we become the representative of the Father. We become his ambassadors. We have that light shining. And this is, if we do this and believe it and walk in it, then we won't, do the, with the Pharisees, we won't follow the hypocrisy of the Pharisees, because even though they were lawyers of the word, they read it, they say they believe in it, but their actions show differently. When they wouldn't lift a finger to help someone because, my outfit is clean, I'm going to the tabernacle right now, so be careful, so I can't help you while you're lying around bleeding or hurting or something like that. It's just a beyond me or fast beneath me to help you right now when I have something else I got to do. You see, so Yeshua expound on this and basically told us, believe in what they say, because they are teaching the Torah. But don't do what they do, because that is their hypocrisy. So we have to learn how to supersede that that level of the Pharisees, because if you want to enter the kingdom, So I want to expound on that, because that's what he's talking about. If you're not bearing much fruit, it's because what's coming from you?
Right.
You just made a point. That Jesus Iscariot was right with him. I mean, how close could you get to holiness? And you still failed? Because it wasn't in your heart. You wanted what you wanted. You wanted your will. You didn't want the Father's will. And that is our problem. He said he will give desires of your heart. But it gets twisted around thinking, not on your lust. If you spirit Yahweh, if you believe in Yahweh, if you want the great things of Yahweh, then you want his desire. And if you want Yahweh's desire, he'll give you all those different things, because you could be trusted with the Spirit. You're not going to lead another astray. But if you're not bearing fruit, when it comes to prune us, then we're erring in that part of our life. And if we don't learn from it, then it doesn't matter, at least for your salvation. Others will learn, they may receive salvation from his word, the fruit of his word. But you're going to be left behind because you did not give him your heart.
Right.
It wasn't true in your heart to him, and that's what Jesus Iscariot represents.
Right.
You want to do his will, not the Father's will.
Right. We didn't want to abide in him. And as we read more through these next few verses, it's going to prove and clarify what it talks about how abiding in him is what will allow you to get fruits, and how to abide in him. And that's the difference between, a Pharisees type approach, because everybody that walks with this word, they're not abiding in him, but they got it. It's here. It's right here. But you're not abiding in it. And everybody who reads this book to themselves or to other people, that doesn't mean they abiding in him. They're just reading words on a book. So Mashiach going to clarify that here. Go ahead.
Verse 5, I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abides in me and I in him, the same brings forth much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing.
He that abides in this word brings much fruit. But without this word, you can't do anything. Go ahead.
If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned.
Mm-hmm.
If you abide in me and my words abide in you, You shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you.
And this is one they love to bastardize too. Oh, ask in the name of Jesus and you're going to get everything. Ask in a name that he never even heard while he was alive. Makes no sense. Go ahead.
Herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit. So shall you be my disciples.
All right. So there's a lot in that statement right there. This is how you glorify the Father, that you bear much fruit. How do you bear much fruit? You have to abide in the Son. And then shall you be disciples. So you can't call yourself Lamadim. You ain't Lamadim. You ain't no disciple. You ain't a Lamadim unless you bear much fruit. And you're not bearing much fruit unless you abiding in this word. And how do you abide in this word? Let's continue.
As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Continue you in my love.
So you got to love the Father and the Son. And you got to continue in that love. And to love the Father and Son means you have to love his people. But what is love? Go ahead.
If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love.
So this is how you abide in him, in love. And love is to keep these commandments. And the commandments ain't always a smiley thing. Sometimes the commandments is chastening and rebuke and admonition. Go ahead.
These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you.
Perfectly. Go ahead.
Greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends.
And you lay down your life for your friends when you live your life for the word. You walk in righteousness. This is how you lay down your life for your friends. Your friends want to do this, that want to do that. Yeah, that's all well and nice, but I can't. As much as I would love to revisit them old times, I can't. I got to walk in righteousness. And hopefully, you will learn from that example, because that that's not me. We hung out, we did all the dirt together, so that's not me. This is the Father in me, because I'm abiding in this word. And Shabbat Shalom, Larry Evans. Good to see you, family. And Shabbat Shalom, Aquanet Thompson. Good to see you as well. And y'all be with your son. We want to keep a prayer for Sister Aquanet Thompson having some difficulties with her son and some medication.
Verse 15. Henceforth, I call you. Verse 14. You are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth, I call you not servants, for the servant knows not what his master does. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father I have made known unto you. You have not chosen me, but I have chosen you, and ordained you, that you should go and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatsoever you shall ask of the Father in my name, he may give it to you. These things I command you, that you love one another.
All right, let's stop right there. Let's move on. Let's go to Luke chapter 13. Lucas chapter 13. So this is what we were talking about, when Yahshua comes to visit that tree. If it's not bearing no fruit, it's going to be a problem. Let's start this at let's see.
That was for the beginning.
Started at verse 6.
He spoke also this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon and found none. Then said he unto the dresser of his vineyard, I come seeking fruit on this fig tree and find none. Cut it down. Why cumber it the ground? And he answering said unto him, Master, let it alone this year also, till I shall dig about it and dung it.
All right. So again, this man walks and he sees trees, fig trees. And Adonai sees, wait a minute, there's no fruit. You ain't bear this tree is just taking nutrients from the ground and robbing the resources for other people to produce fruit. Why are you cumbering the ground with it? Cut it down. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. It's worthless. We can use it for another purpose. Just like a vessel of honor or dishonor. You can be used for a different purpose. That's why he says, I'd rather you be hot or cold. I can do something with hot. I can do something with cold. I'm going to do it lukewarm. I neither make it cold or make it hot. I'm not going to do nothing with that. So this is what he sees with us. Again, that man sees trees. That man probably had super kingdom vision. And he's able to see the end result. Wait, I see a bunch of trees, but I don't see no fruits. Problem. So the servant says, nah, has mercy, compassion on this other tree or this other branch that is like unto him, and says, no, let me dung it. Let me put some fertilizer around it. And that fertilizer, dung, this is crap. This is feces. So in our life, you wonder, what is all this crap going on around me? A servant is trying to dung you. He's trying to give you a chance to bear fruit. And he figures if I put enough bad situations around him, he ain't got no choice but to go up, to look up. If he's going to grow, if the Most High chose him to be one of the Mashiach's people. Because he said, none of these that you gave me, all of them are mine. Not one of them is fall from my hand. So the servant is doing the work and the dung is going around the tree. And it's either going to produce fruit or it's not. Go ahead.
Verse 7. Then said he unto the dresser of his vineyard, Behold, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and find none. Cut it down, why cumber it the ground? And he answering said unto him, Master, let it alone this year, till I shall dig about it and dung it. And if it bear fruit, well, and if not, then after you shall cut it down.
All right. So the King James, why I like it is because, again, it writes things a certain way. In verse 8, it has Lord with the capital L. So that's signifying a pronoun, like a name of somebody. There's a difference. In English, when you have a capital to begin a word, that's letting you know it's a pronoun. It's a name. It's like a person, place, or a thing that they're talking about. It's not just talking about lowercase L-O-R-D. The lowercase L-R-D would just be a master, any different type of master. But now we said unto him, Adonai, let it alone this year also. So it's jumping between the parable and jumping back into letting you know the Adonai is the one that's coming down here to deal with these things. Going back to what I just told you, it's like the phone just hung up. I don't even know when it hung up.
And mine died.
All right, pardon us for a second. We have lost the call.
What's the next script? We'll probably head over there in the meantime.
The next scripture is going to be Galatians chapter 5. I don't know what's going on. It's like I can't even get on.
There are 3 participants in the conference. The recording has started.
All right, sorry about that. We had some phone difficulties. The phone hung up, so we're back on. So again, what I was saying is the Adonai, when you see in verse 8, in the King James, it says, and he answering said unto him, Lord. And it has Lord in all, it has Lord capital L, lowercase O-R-D. When you see capital L in English, that means it's like a pronoun. It's a person, place, or a thing. So it is saying that this is representing a person. So this is now no longer talking about lowercase L-O-R-D, which would be a master, just a general person in the story. It's letting you know it's talking about the Mashiach here. When it has Lord in all caps, that's letting you know it's talking about Yahweh, the Most High. So he's letting you know this is the Adonai that's coming around. This parable is a parable, but it's talking about the Adonai showing up to say, listen, I see trees here, but where are the fruits? I don't see no fruits. And at time of judgment, like I mentioned earlier, the 144 is coming to grab all those trees that are not bearing fruit, those trees of his stock. That's who he's coming for. The adversary, the devil, is trying to kill off all Yahweh's stock of people that are bearing fruit. So we're going to move on. Let's move on to Galatians chapter 5, and let's see what this fruit is that we're supposed to be bearing. Galatians chapter 5. Galatians chapter 5, and we're going to start this at verse 22.
But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they that are Mashiachs have impaled the flesh with the affections and lusts. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit.
All right, so the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace. So it starts off with, some good stuff. It's love, it's joy, it's peace. You get all those beautiful things. But also it's long suffering, which means you're going to have to go through something. You're going to have to go through those periods where he's planting that dung around you. And you're going to have to suffer through that smell. Ugh. So that you can grow. Gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. So not only are you going to have to do certain deeds, you're also going to have to do certain deeds in a certain manner of spirit. When we went over the definition of admonition, admonition is to gently help somebody back into the way. It ain't always beating somebody with a rod. Everybody ain't your child. You deal with your child that way because he needs to learn. There's no time. He got to know now because he's not smart enough or wise enough or has enough experience not to hurt himself. So you got to deal with somebody in that manner. Go ahead.
Verse 26, let us not be desirous of vain glory, provoking one another, envying one another.
All right. Verse 25, if we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. All right. So let's go to the conclusion. Let's go to Revelation chapter 22. Revelation chapter 22. And that's right. Growing pains. That's what we go through when we are trying to grow and we are trying to branch out. And just like, growing pains is when that child is growing and his bones is growing and his branches are spreading out. It's painful because those bones are being purged and it's being different. It's not the same little small structure that it was before, and it hurts. And I'm watching my children go through the very same thing right now, growing pains. And it's not just physical. There's also the spiritual growing pains that you go through. So Revelation chapter 22, and we're going to read verses 1 through 7 for the conclusion.
And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of Elohim and of the Lamb. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month, as the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations.
All right, so let's analyze that. So in the middle of the street of it, and either side of the river, there was a tree of life. I haven't heard them really talk about that tree of life since Genesis. Now they're coming back talking about this tree of life. And the tree of life, this showing you what it bared. It bare 12 manner of fruits. How coincidental. Just like the 12 tribes of Israel. So you have this tree of life in the beginning, right? And if you go to John chapter 1, the word is the light of man. This is what gives us life, is this word, the Mashiach. That's why we're called Israelites and not Yahwehites. Because we come from the branch of Yasharal. That's where we come from. That's why we're Yasharalai, Israelites. And this branch bears 12 manners of fruit, these 12 tribes. And this fruit is for the healing of the nations. Our leaves, the products of our trees, is for the healing of the nations, because we can heal them from all the misinformation they've got. They're going to come back and say, our parents have inherited lies. 7 shall grab a hold of the skirt of one Yehudim and say, we have heard Yahweh is with you. Teach us. And they're going to understand the adversary is gone. There is no misinformation anymore. So they have the truth, and it's whether or not they want to walk towards it or not. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of Elohim and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him.
There's no more curse because there's no more evil. So there's no more consequence for evil because there's no more evil in the earth. It's been wiped away. Them days are long gone. Go ahead.
And they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun, for Yahweh Elohim gives them light, and they shall reign forever and ever.
Now remember, the closer you get unto Yahweh, the person that got the closest to Yahweh, a man who got the closest to Yahweh was Moshe. He spoke face to face with him. When he came out and spoke face to face to him, what happened to him?
His face glowed.
So much he had to put a lampshade on his face. He had to get a veil and veil his whole face. You know, don't get it. People think that, you know, when they think veil, they think, you know, a little thing over your mouth, like the prostitutes used to wear. No. A veil is when you cover up your whole thing. If his face was glowing, he couldn't just have his eyes showing, because then it would glow everywhere. Where's the light of man is his eyes. So that's where it would shine the brightest. So he had to veil himself, cover himself fully. And the reason I'm going into that is because you have people talking about, you know, covering your head and this, that, and the other. And if you read what it was talking about veiling your head fully. That's what the woman would do. Veil herself fully, because you didn't need to be looking at my wife. What you need to look at, because at least you look at her and start lusting for her. That's how adultery happens. So when it's talking about coming before the Father, another time you veil your head completely is when a woman goes to a funeral. When she go to a funeral, the person would veil their head, because you don't want everybody seeing them ugly faces you making when you don't cry because you don't lost your baby or your mom or your relative. So they would cover their faces up. So when you go before the Father, he does not want his men coming before them in that spirit. A spirit of being just so depressed and downtrodden and hurt and hiding from the Father. No, you're the glory of man. You're the glory of the Father. You are made in his image. Take that thing off. You think you can't make no face before him that he ain't seen before. You are naked before him. So he doesn't want us approaching him that way. So that's what it was talking about. And I know that's a little bit too over the head for some carnal people, because carnal people want to just see, oh, you know, you didn't have your head covered. You have your head covered. It's deeper than that. Go ahead. So let me digress. So I did all that to go back to the point that I was making right there with the light. There's no need for light of the sun because his people are there. We the light. The Lamb is the light thereof of the temple. It lights up everything. Who in the temple? The servants. We there. We light up the place. So now we shining like the true light we supposed to be. And the nations are receiving that light, which is his word. They are learning from us, which is a physical light and a spiritual light. And they're receiving life, and they're able to live forever. There's no more curse, because only people that are going to be there are the people that are going to accept that light, or they're going to starve to death. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And he said unto me, these sayings are faithful and true. And the Elohim of the holy prophet sent his angel to show unto his servants the things which must shortly be done. Behold, I come quickly. Blessed is he that keeps the sayings of this prophecy, of this book.
Amen. And it's just that simple. The whole thing summed up in verse 7. Behold, I come quickly. Quickly to you may be, you know, he gonna be here tomorrow. Quickly to a spirit that's been here forever, maybe 100 years, maybe 10 days. That could be quick in the grand scheme of things. If creation been here for thousands of years, and then quickly He's here in another 100 years or another 20 years or 30 years or a day. All of that is quick to him. And blessed is he that says the sayings of this book. No, it says that keeps the sayings of the prophecy of this book. Blessed are those that abide in the branch, in the root, in the tree. Blessed is those. So that's all we're going to do today. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer?
Yeah, I would read verse 15 also.
Can you speak up a little bit louder? I switched phones and the speaker phone's a little bit lower, Elder.
Okay. Would you read verse 14 then?
Verse 14, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates into the city.
All right, so he's telling you again, second witness, how to keep these sayings. Go ahead and expound on that, Elder.
Basically, a lot of churches out there are talking about how you be blessed, that I'm blessed and highly favored. But we've been reading that that is not true. The only way you can be highly favored if you keep the Father's commandments, because this is the law He gave us, to give Him glory. Because we keeping His commandments, we doing His nice will, and we showing the followers of the adversary that they have no hold on us, and we are giving the Father His glory because we're being obedient to Him. And this is how we're going to receive our inheritance, by doing His will and keeping His commandments. So I wanted to, just add that one in, because you said also that verse 7, behold, I come quickly, blessed is he that keepeth in the sayings of the prophecy of his book. And that is basically what Yahshua was telling his disciples to go and teach, and telling the masses, what they need to do, as well as Yahweh is teaching us in the beginning to keep his commandments, and that will keep us in right standing with us, and it gives us our righteousness, because it's only imputed unto us if we keep the commandments and do Yahweh's will.
Right. Amen. So it's letting you know, ain't nobody saved. And if you read the rest of it, you get your name blotted out the book of life. So at the end of the day, you're going to have to endure, which is to keep these commandments and to keep it in spirit and in truth all the way until you sleep, until your spirit go back to the Father. That's the only way. And that's the only way we can do anything, is to bear fruit, which is to abide in the branch, to abide in the Mashiach, in this word, walk in it, talk in it, and to help others in it. So that's all we're going to do today. Let's go ahead and close in prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings, and all sisters pray with their heads covered fully. And we face the east towards Jerusalem, where our temple was, and where our temple in Yahshua shall return. Brother West, can you close us out in prayer, please?
Our Father, Elohim of Abraham, Yishak, and Yaakov, we thank you, Father Yah, for this lesson today and allowing us to gather before you, Father Yah, and learn more about your word, Father Yah, and try to abide in you and your word, Father Yah, and give us this opportunity for us to do so, Father Yah, that we may learn how to bear fruit, Father Yah. In Yahshua HaMashiach's holy mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Yes, Shabbat Shalom, sister. Hold on, we ending the class.